What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Too Good for Theaters video. Today, we're going to be breaking down the Patriots' final Day 2 selection in the third round, 96th overall, center out of Georgia, that being Jared Wilson, so let's get right into it. So with the 96th overall selection, the Patriots select center out of Georgia, that being Jared Wilson, and there was a little bit of a movement before this. Of course, the New England Patriots originally had the 77th overall pick, but they trade back with the Carolina Panthers to get the 85th overall pick, as well as the 146th overall pick. I believe that is either a late 4th rounder or a 5th rounder. But then they also trade back once again with the 85th overall pick, sending that to Kansas City, to the 96th overall pick, as well as picking up a 4th round selection in the 2026 draft. So a little bit of movement there by the Patriots, but they finally settled into that 96th overall selection where they selected Jared Wilson. Of course, I think Jared Wilson probably would have been a little higher in this year's draft, or at least on people's boards, but he simply just did not have the sample size with only being a one-year starter at Georgia. Of course, he was playing behind starting center Cedric Van Pran, who I believe got drafted to the Bills last year, but Jared Wilson filled in that void on the interior of the Georgia line there and performed rather well. And take a look at some of his combine numbers here. He actually ranked both first in production as well as athleticism amongst centers, not only in the combine, but according to the entirety of the 2024 campaign there. So Jared Wilson, given his limited sample size, certainly played well, and that's probably why he saw his name this early in the draft being a third-round selection. I actually had him mocked to the Patriots in a couple mock drafts in the 4th round, but maybe a little early here on Jared Wilson, and he probably could have fallen back a couple spots to you in the 4th round. However, I think that you have a need at center. Of course, you just signed Garrett Bradbury, but is he really going to be your long-term starter, or is he even granted the starting spot right now? I mean, he struggled a lot last year with the Vikings, so Jared Wilson might be a guy who can potentially be a starter for you if he has a really good camp in preseason and Garrett Bradbury continues to struggle. So it'd be nice to see what happens there, maybe a little bit of a position battle. And I do think that Jared Wilson is going to have every chance to win this job. I do think that he's going to be not a quote-unquote roster lock here, but I think that there's a very good chance that he might get some playing time this year in some meaningful football games for the Patriots. So I'm looking forward to that. But just taking a look at his overall draft profile, he is very athletic for a center, has really good feet. And some of the scouts really said that he just engages in his blocks really well, but he has the movement skills to really block while on the move. And he has such good feet and quick feet that he has such a good blocking radius at the center position where he can actually kind of fill up multiple gaps because of how quick his feet is. And that's something that the Patriots centers really haven't had in a while. Of course, David Andrews kind of filled that role, but he has been injured these past couple seasons. And Ben Brown, bless his heart, he did what he could last year, and I'd say that he performed rather well given the circumstance. But, you got some actual talent in that room now, and hopefully Jared Wilson is going to be able to kind of solve this question that the Patriots have had along the interior of this offensive line, in particular at the center position. And I really don't see Jared Wilson kind of being like a Cole Strange type of guy who moves over the guard. I think he is strictly just going to be a center. He's 21 years old, still pretty young, 6'3", 310 pounds, sounds like a center to me. So I would be shocked if they do decide to move him, but I think that he has a really good chance to make this opening day roster and hopefully compete for a starting center job. And that would be great if you pick up your starting center in the 3rd round here for the Patriots. But taking a look at some of his college statistics here, in the 2024 campaign, he played in 12 games, had an offensive grade of 79.6, a pass block grade of 84.9, and a run block grade of 76. He took 511 pass block snaps, did not allow a registered sack. He gave up 6 pressures, 5 hurries, only 1 QB hit allowed, and he was penalized 3 times. And also take a look at some of his run blocking statistics here. Wanted to just take a look at the scheme that Georgia was running. They were running more zone scheme compared to the traditional gap scheme that Josh McDaniels tends to run. But he took 158 zone blocking snaps, which accounted for at least 53% of his run blocking snaps. And he took 108 gap block snaps, which accounted for at least 36% of his run blocking snaps there. So this is someone who is familiar with both schemes, but typically a little bit more familiar with some zone blocking schemes. However, of course, Doug Marrone on the offensive line, Josh McDaniels is going to help him out, as well as Dante Scarnecchia is consulting with the Patriots offensive lineman here. So very excited here to see if Jared Wilson can continue to build upon his young career here and see if he can develop into a more experienced center here in this Patriots system. All right, everyone, that's going to wrap up the second day of the NFL draft for the Patriots. Of course, selecting Travion Henderson, Kyle Williams, and now you can add Jared Wilson into the mix while also gaining some future draft capital here as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on the pick of Jared Wilson and whether or not he's a good fit here in New England and whether or not he could potentially be a starter for you. And I'm going to continue with this third day of Patriots draft coverage, so hopefully I'll see you all then.